everyone, this is Paul with Paul's Railroad, and welcome to Fusion 360. Now before we get started here, let me throw out two disclaimers real quick here. Number one, I am by no means an expert at 3D modeling, nor am I an expert at using Fusion 360 software. Everything that I'm doing on here I have either learned by trial and error, or I have actually watched other YouTubers doing, some similar things, taking parts and pieces here to make it work for what I need to do. There might be some of you guys out there watching that knows Fusion 360 or are 3D modeling experts, and if you got any tips you want to throw my way, go for it. But please be kind, because like I said, this is how I'm doing it, and some of the things I do may not be, I should say some of the tools I'm using may not necessarily be meant to be used the way that I'm using them, but it does work for me. So let's get started here. If you are going to be following along with me, I am going to be trying to go at a decent pace, only because the nature of these types of videos, they're going to be a bit on the long side, and that just, it kind of sucks sometimes. I know I don't like watching super long videos. I will be breaking them up into different videos, but even doing that, I still think they're going to be a little long. Okay, so when you're first looking at the screen here, you'll notice to your left you have this little navigation panel, and it's either going to say My First Project or Sample Projects if you're new to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little house looking icon here. It's a Return to Project list, and we're going to create a new project. Now, since we are creating a shed, I'm going to name it just Shed. Now once that is created, find it in your project list, double click it, and that opens up a whole new screen. This is where we're going to be working on the shed itself. Now before we start designing, the one thing I want to do here is I want to turn off Capture History. The reason being, capturing history uses up a great deal of processing power on your computer, and even though I have a relatively decent gaming computer, it still bogs it down quite a bit. And with what we're doing, there's no real need, that I don't feel there's no real need anyways, to be capturing the history. That is something that's going to be more useful if you're doing what's called parametric modeling. If you want to learn more about that, there's tons of YouTube videos out there about parametric modeling, but that's not what we're going to be doing here. So one of the things that we're going to do to get started here is up here where it says Unsaved, we're going to right click it and go down to the bottom and click on Do Not Capture Design History. We're going to turn it off. Click on Continue. Alright, now once that's done, I'll go up here to File, and we're going to save this file before we even start. And again, it's a shed, so I'm just going to call it Shed. That generates a little icon over here. There's nothing here to the left until we actually create something, and then it'll start showing up every time we save it. Alright, up above here on this ribbon area, you'll see where you have all your tools. You have your Create tools, your Modify tools. Assemble tools we will not use. Construct tools not use, at least not right now. We will use the Inspect tool here, the measurement. But modeling in Fusion 360 and many other types of 3D modeling programs, we start out with a two-dimensional drawing or a sketch. So that's where we're going to start here today. We're going to click on this little icon here that says Create a Sketch. Oh, and by the way, if these icons are not here, or if you lose them, if you click on the little drop-down menu, you'll find them down here. Okay, so we're going to create a sketch. We'll click this. And now when I'm sketching buildings, I like to sketch from a point of view looking down upon that building. Instead of trying to figure out which plane we're going to be working on here, we can go up to our little box here that's used to move around our item when we're working on it. We'll just click on top, and I want it to turn this so where we're facing, where Y is up, so where you can actually read over top. So here is the plane that we're going to be working on. So just click that, and now we're ready to start sketching our building. Now here is the origin point, and when I am creating sketches, creating models, especially with buildings that are square, rectangular, even round or oval, I try to always model with my origin at the center of our structure, our building, our model, whatever we're doing. And that'll come into play here shortly, and I'll show you why. Now, in the previous video, the introductory video to what we're doing here, I gave you all the dimensions of this shed. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a square. The shed is 12 feet by 12 feet, or broken down, it's 2.4 centimeters by 2.4 centimeters. So we're working on metric, of course. So right here is a 2-point rectangle, but we don't want to use that. What we want to use, we go down to this drop-down menu, go down to rectangle. And what we want to use is what's called a center rectangle. Now what this does is this starts this, when you highlight the origin here, you see it turns into a box. This will center your rectangle on the origin. So we just click and drag. Now we can drag it out to the dimensions that we want, but since we know what they are, we can just type them in, which is much easier. So we're going to type in 2.4, hit your tab key by 2.4, and just go ahead and hit enter. And there is our basic outline for our shed. Now as you can see here, these lines here, these are our walls, right? Let me zoom in here. Okay, now in order to create a wall that has a thickness to it, we need to add thickness to these lines. And the easiest way to do that is by clicking on this little icon. It's called offset. Now when you click on offset, you go down here and you start highlighting, and you see it's highlighting all the walls in blue because it's selecting all the connecting lines. Make sure your chain select is selected. If it's not, and you come down here, it will only select one at a time. But since we're doing all 4 lines to create walls, we want to make sure that's selected. So we'll click on the walls, and this time it's working for us. It's automatically offsetting the walls to the interior. We don't want to offset them to the exterior. That will make our overall footprint larger than 2.4 centimeters. Now this is 0.1 of a centimeter thickness, which is 1 millimeter. That's decent. I think I'm going to go down with a little bit smaller than 1 millimeter. I think I'm going to do like 0.08. Don't need anything quite that thick for this small shed. Now keep in mind, when I'm designing these items, and if you are a 3D printer person as I am, most of our standard nozzles are 0.4 of a millimeter. So you want to make sure that you're at least 0.5 of a millimeter, which would be 0.05 here if you're creating vertical walls or vertical anything. 0.04, I've tried doing that several times, and in the printer it doesn't want to do it. That's just one swipe. So 0.08 is double the width of our nozzle, so that gives us a nice even print area. So once we do that, we'll just hit enter. Next thing we want to do is what's called extrude. And extruding is what changes this 2D model into a 3D model. And there's several ways you can do that. You can click on Finish Sketch, then you can go up and find extrude up in here, but the easiest way to do it is just to hit E for extrude. That closes the sketch, and that creates the extrude panel, pops up automatically. Okay, now we do not want to highlight the center area, or we will just extrude a very big square cube. What we're trying to create here are walls, so we're going to go into here until all this turns blue like that. Just click it. And if you want to look at it, well, my computer is acting up on me. Just give me 1 second here. There we go. Now all I did there, just so you know, a little bit of housekeeping here. If you want to zoom in and out, your center scroll wheel zooms in and out. If you want to rotate, you hold down Shift, click your center scroll wheel, then use your mouse to move around. You can rotate around the objects. Or of course you can use your little cube up here to rotate. Now we can just grab this arrow and extrude that way if you want to. And that's fine and dandy, but again, since we took the time to get the proper measurements, we're just going to type the measurements in. Now we know that we want these walls to be 1.5 centimeters tall, so type in 1.5. And of course then again hit enter. And there are our 4 walls. Very simple. Now I'm going to save this right now. And as you can see, once we save it, now we have a little icon of what we're working on up there. Alright, then now the next point, or next item that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the peaks for our sidewalls. Now go back here to the top. Oh yeah, another thing real quick. If you're messing around and you lose your building and lose whatever you're working on, if you come up here and just click on that home, it brings it right back up. Just a little tip for you there. Alright, so now we're back on top. We know which direction is which. This is left and right. And I want to work on the right side. Now what we're going to do is we are going to create, like I said, our peak for the sidewalls. So again, we are going to start by creating a sketch. But this time we're not going to sketch on a plane, we're actually going to sketch right on this wall itself. So we'll click on the wall, and Fusion always moves things around. I don't know what it does that for. And the first thing we're going to have to do is find the center point of this wall and draw a line to give us our height. So we're going to select the line tool. Bring it down here to the corner, and if you'll notice, if I come out here, Fusion always wants to line things up for you. See the multiple little blue dots here? It's telling you it's in line with these lines on the wall. So we're just going to start scooting across. Turns to an X, and when we get towards the center, it's going to turn to a triangle. There it is. Now what we want to do is we want to create the line for the peak of this wall, and we know that our peak is 8.5 millimeters tall. So we'll click here, start dragging up. Now you click and let go here, and then you start dragging up after you let go of your left mouse click. We're going to tell you it's 8.5 millimeters, so that's 0.85 of a centimeter. That is the peak of our sidewalls. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back up here to the line tool again, select it again. We're going to start right on this little point here. We're going to click, let go of the click, and we're going to drag it down here to this corner until it locks in like that. See how it kind of snaps to that corner. Click again. We're going to go back up here to this little point. Click. Bring it down here until it snaps into this corner. Click. Now, in order to get rid of the line tool, you can either go back up and click the line tool or just tap your escape key. Alright, we no longer need this center line. That was just for our measurement. So highlight that. When it turns blue, just click on it, highlighting it. Hit your delete key and get rid of it. And now we need to create our peak. So again, we are going to extrude. So E for extrude. Click on that. Now here's a little trick. We don't have to try to figure it out, our thicknesses. I mean, you could type in negative. See, going this way is negative, going this way is positive. We're going to be going negative. You could try to type in negative 0.08. But the easiest thing to do is just start moving it. You can just move it a little bit. And we're going to go to the inside wall here and click this. And that makes it perfectly even with that inside wall. Alright. Now before we click OK or hit enter, we need to go up here to where it says operation. We do not want to join this with the sidewall. We want to create a new body. And I'll show you why here in a second. So we click on new body, now OK. Now we have separate bodies here. This is all one body, the whole square, the base, and the triangle here for the side peak is another body. Now here is where this little origin point comes into play, actually creating the building on the center of the origin. Come back up here and turn on the origin because it turns off automatically when you start modeling. And what we need to do is we need to put this peak on this side of the wall. And now there's no reason to redraw all of that and go through all that work when it's a very simple task to do using the origin point and what's called mirror. So when you go up here to create, go down here until you find mirror, click on mirror. Now you got an object and a mirror plane. First thing we're going to select is object. Our object we want to select is this triangle. Now you need to be careful when you're selecting this. If you notice right here, only that edge is highlighted. If I click that, it will only select that edge. And that's not what we want. We want to select the whole triangle. So we want to make sure the whole thing lights up. Alright, now the triangle is lit up, so that is selected. I'm going to come up here to a mirror plane, click on it, and the plane that we want to select is going to be the plane that's facing this wall, which is this plane. And it gives you a little preview of what's going on, and there is the triangle on the other side. And it is going to create a new body. So just click OK. And there you go. we have our two side walls with the peaks for the roof. Now I'm going to turn the origin off again real quick here so we don't see that. And I'm going to save it one more time. Just like to keep saving in case, lose power or anything can happen, right? Alright, since we have the peaks created for the sidewalls, we can now join this all together and make it one part. There's no reason to keep it all separate right now. So what you're going to do is go up here in the modify panel and you've got the combine tool. Click on combine, and you can start with anything you want. I'm going to start on the main body. Then we're going to combine these two peaks to it. Click on OK. Now it is one unit, one body. A little bit of housekeeping to always try to do so you don't lose track of what's going on in your parts and pieces. Over here on bodies, click this little arrow down. You see you got body 1 here. Kind of highlights when you hover over it. We're going to click it again, and we're going to name this shed body. Name it whatever you want, but I'm naming it shed body. Alright, now our next step that we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to create the roof. So again, we are going to start with a sketch. And this time we are not, we're not going to sketch on a plane, but we're going to sketch on the actual shed itself. But this time we are going to want to sketch on one of these planes here on the angle of the side wall for the roof. Alright, since we're creating the roof, we're only going to create one side at a time. And this time we can use this very simple 2-point rectangle, so click on it and come over here, highlight that, we're going to start in the corner, so I'll highlight that corner, click and just hold it down and drag it. Now what I like to do is I like to drag it over a little bit. Well, you actually don't have to. You know what, let's just click it right to that corner and drag it down, give ourselves a little bit of an overhang. Okay. Now again, we are going to extrude. So hit E for extrude. Now you'll notice when I highlight this roof, it's not, the little edge here that we started on is not highlighted. So whenever you are extruding something like this, make sure you select everything. So we're going to select the main part first here, come over here and just click this little section so it selects everything. Now I am going to make this 0.05, so 0.5 millimeter thick. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. I'll make it just a little bit thicker than that, 'cause it's the way I'm going to print this. That's another point that I must make. Whenever you're designing something, especially something that we're going to be 3D printing, you've always got to keep in mind how you plan on printing the item. That's going to determine how you model it and then how many pieces you model your structure, your building, whatever it is that you're modeling. This roof, once we get it all finished, I know that I'm going to be modeling it to where it's going to be sitting on one of the edges and I'm going to be printing it to where it's going to be sitting on one of the edges and printing in a vertical fashion. It's not going to be printing flat. So I need to give it a little more thickness for again for our 0.04 millimeter nozzle. So we'll select this, again select that. Let's give this 0.06. I know it's not much, but that should help us out a great deal. Alright, that looks horrible, right? There's no overhang on the edges. Well, that's easy to fix. What we're going to do here is I'd like to have a 2 millimeter overhang. So we'll go up here to this little icon. It's called press pull. Click it. Click on this edge and type in 0.2. Same thing for this edge. The press pull icon. Click it. Oh, it didn't highlight it. See? 0.2. Alright, now we have 2 millimeter overhang on both sides. One thing I did forget to mention though, when we did extrude this roof, I noticed it, but I should have told you, it was already was set up to create a new body. Again, always make sure you're creating new bodies. You don't want to just join them, because if we were to join this to this, then we'd be done. We wouldn't be able to continue on. Alright, Now we need to create the other side of the roof, and you guessed it, we're going to use that mirror again. So we're going to turn the origin on, go here to create, go down to mirror, the object, we're going to select this object, our mirror plane, since we want to put it on this side of the building. It's going to be this plane here, click it. See it says join, we don't want to join it, we want a new body. Always make sure we're using new bodies. Click OK. And there's your roof, right? It's all done. No, it's not done. That looks horrible, doesn't it? Alright, before we go too much further, this right here, this side, this is body 4. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to call this roof. There's no need to name this side, because once we combine everything, it'll automatically be a roof as long as we do it in the order I show you. Alright. Now we're looking at this, we got this big gap here in between. How are we going to fill that, right? It's a very, very simple operation. Again, we go over here to create, and we're going to do what's called lofting. Go down here and you find your loft tool. And what this does is it takes two planes and it creates structure between them, basically. So we're going to click this profile here, we're going to click this profile here, and again, I do not want to join it, I want a new body. Click OK, and if you are okay with a square ridge-lined roof, you're finished. All we would have to do is combine it. Again, how I would do that, let's go up here to combine. I would start with this, with the one we named roof. Select that first. That is our, that's our target body, that's correct. And our tool bodies is this, and it's join, and bam, look, it's all named roof. Now I'm not happy with a flat ridge roof, so we're going to Control Z and go back. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this tool that is called Move Copy. I'm going to come down here to this square ridge line. We're going to find kind of the center point here. Move the tool around until it kind of clicks on the center. And it's giving me a hard time. There we go. I had to move it so I could see it. Now we're going to make a copy of this. That's very simple. Come over here to where it says Create Copy and check mark it. Just grab this up arrow and drag it. And look, we created a copy. Now we want to turn this 180 degrees. So you can either turn it using these, or you can just type in 180. And I'm going to select OK. Now we have two parts and pieces here. What are we going to do with this? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to get this back down on top of this. And the best way to do that, to make sure it's sitting flush, is we're going to align. So click on this align tool here. Now I have mine, I put mine up here because I use it a lot. Usually it's down here and in the drop down menu. And here's the cool thing, if you come down here and you find a tool you want to put up there in your ribbon, there's three little dots over here. If you click on those, you see where it says pin to toolbar, just check mark that, and there you go. But anyways, we're going to use this align tool, so click it, and we are going to move this body from to this body. So you see up here you get your from and to's, right? So that's always, make sure you know which one you're moving from and which one you're moving to, or you're going to give yourself a headache. So we're moving this one from here, so we'll select the bottom of that plane here, or that bottom of that body I should say, and we're going to move it to the top of this body. So select that and bam, drops it right on top, and it's perfect. Select OK. Now we got a pyramid ridge. Is that good enough? No, of course not. We're going to roll this pyramid ridge down until we have a nice round ridge. And how we do that is by selecting this tool right here called Fillet. Come down here to the ridge line. Select that line right there in the center. You got your little arrow down here. Now here's where there's no numbers to be put in. This is just where you're going to eyeball it to what you like. So just start sliding it down, pushing that arrow down to what you get what you like. And I think that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, I like that. Once we get that done, click OK. Now it's time to join everything up. Again, since we already named this one roof, we're going to select it first, but first we have to of course come up here and select Combine. And our target body is this, so we'll select that first. And we'll click this ridge, and this part of the ridge, and this other part of the roof. And we'll make sure Operation still says Join. Select OK, and there we go. We have the roof and the body of the shed. Alright folks, I think that's going to be enough for this particular video. On our next video we are going to at least get into making some siding for the side walls here and making the doors and windows. Maybe we'll be able to finish it up too. We'll see how fast that goes. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. If you don't like what you're seeing, just give me a thumbs up to make everybody else watch it so they can hate it too. But please give me a thumbs up if you guys can. It helps with getting my videos seen, which is what we're trying to do here, right? Trying to teach and learn and inspire. Alright, have a good evening everyone.